This is Freckled Han, and you're listening to Rantish, a weekly podcast where we rant about everything from the funny to the infuriating. Come for the rants, stay for the company, because even if you disagree, you always belong. I have an intro. You guys, I have for so long been saying that I was going to have an intro, and I finally did it. This is 2026, the year of the podcast. Not only that, but it is going to be unhinged rants in 2026. I feel like it's hard because on the one hand, I am a pretty neutral person. Like, I can see both sides a lot of the time. I like to hear both sides out. There are some things that I feel really passionately and strongly about. However, they change over time. That's kind of part of growing up, right? Is that you learn new information, you change your mind about things. And so I think it's tricky, especially where I'm putting my voice and my face and my opinions out on the internet. It can be really scary because just because I feel strongly about something right now today doesn't mean I'm going to feel strongly about it forever. And I do think that that has held me back a little bit because it's scary. I'm scared. There's fear. And I have just, as I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, well, you know, the few that I love that I listen to all the time, I'm just so amazed and impressed by these women and how they are just unapologetically saying stuff, and sometimes people are not liking it. And not that I'm, trying to stir the boat or ruffle feathers or anything like that. It's not my intention. My intention is to just keep you company, truly. Which is why in the intro it said to keep you company, stay for the company. But I don't want to hold myself back. And not that I have really intentionally, but I think this is just what comes from being in your mid-30s of just saying it and just not feeling like I have to be so worried all the time about what other people think. I do think that being misunderstood is something that is super scary for me, especially online. And I think that's normal. I think that's true for a lot of people. But I think it was Shirley Bird who posted something about one of the New Year's resolutions was to care less what other people think. And I love that. I want to embody it. So how? What are the tips? Tell me. I feel like I've been putting myself out there for so long that it wouldn't really matter at this point, but for whatever reason, it still does. So that's what I'm working on right now. Full disclosure, I have recorded this episode twice. This is the third time for me to record this episode, and that is really embarrassing. That is not normal for me. I think I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself because I kind of want this to be a new start in a lot of ways of the podcast. It's a new year. I'm calling it season 4 because it's the 4th year. Can you believe it? And I have my studio now. I have my setup. I have more of an idea of how I want to see the podcast going forward. And so I thought I want to have a good introductory episode in case there are new people that are listening, because I do really want to grow the podcast this year. That's one of my goals. And so I was I need to do this introductory episode. And so I recorded it the first time and I got way too deep. I got way too hung up on my backstory and all this stuff. And I realized that didn't really give a good overview of what the podcast is actually like. So that was on Friday or Thursday, I think. And then I tried to record again on Friday. And so I went in a different direction of an overview of a lot of rants that I like to bring up repeatedly because there are definitely themes in my rants. And then that felt weird too. And I'm hoping to get these out every Monday. Monday's kind of the goal. I just feel like that's a good day for a new podcast, fresh week, fresh podcast. And so we are trying again. It's Monday morning. This is going to, out of necessity, be a one-take wonder. I don't plan to edit this at all, which is a little bit scary maybe, but we're just going to go for it, and we're going to hope for the best and hope that the third time's the charm, because that's ridiculous and not sustainable. So I'm definitely not going to record this a third time. Again, I think I was way overthinking it. So rather than trying to explain to you what the podcast is about or the purpose of the podcast, I'm just going to podcast like I normally do and just hope that you can kind of pick it up if this is your first time. I will reiterate though, and I said it in the intro, couple things I want to point out in the intro, my brand new intro, which might change, we'll be honest, is that I put in their weekly podcast because that is me confirming to myself and to you that we are going to start getting weekly episodes. Really going to try for them to be released on Mondays. We'll see if that holds. But for now, I'm at least aiming for weekly podcasts. And then also just staying for the company. Like that is the purpose of the podcast. I remember hearing another podcaster say this one time. I think it was Kate Kennedy from Be There in 5. She said, being a podcaster is being in the business of keeping people company. And I love that idea because that's what I use podcasts for. I use podcasts to keep me company when I am bored doing something so monotonous. I just want to hang out with my friends. And after I listen to all and respond to all of the Marco Polos that I have in my queue, which usually is many, inevitably I run out. And then I'm like, okay, next best thing, podcast. And so that's what I hope you think of this as from me, is just kind of like a really long, rambly, ranty Marco Polo, because we love Marco Polo over here. And then the last word I wanted to point out is a place of belonging, because that's kind of like my core thing. That is something that I feel really passionately about, rantish, you might say, is places of belonging and just feeling like people belong with me, hanging out in my home, in my space, whatever, because I think that there can be a lot of ways that things will kind of, what is the word? Sometimes it can feel hard to belong. And I think Brene Brown talks about this. I like how I said that, like we're on first name basis, you know, my friend Brene. She talks about this, but she, with a lot of the research that she's done, a breakthrough or discovery, I guess, that she made was that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And I think that that is such a fascinating concept, because I think from the outside, you assume that in order to belong, you need to fit in. But the reality is that by fitting in, you no longer feel like you belong. And I think that is so interesting. So that's where it comes to, like, you don't have to agree with everything that I say. The purpose is not to make people think like me or act like me or, you know, think that I've got it all figured out, because I definitely don't. But the point is to just let you in on my thoughts so that you can feel like you belong here, even if you don't agree with everything that I say. So, woo, that is the little intro. And then I'm just going to go through my list. Okay, I'm noticing my nails. I painted my nails yesterday. I am at a crossroads with my nails. I was getting my nails done professionally in 2024. And then Steven and I decided to do the full-time entrepreneur thing. And so we've been living off savings. And I was like, okay, I don't think that I really need to get my nails done. But I like having them painted. And I like having them with the hard gel, because I love it. Anyway, so for Christmas last year, I did a fair amount of research and I got myself a nail kit so that I could do it all at home. And I researched brands and I found the one that I thought I would like the best. And because I'm just going to put this out there, gel nails, especially the products you buy on Amazon, are not created equal. And allergies to the gel medication is really common, especially if you're using cheap gels, and it can like turn your fingernails green. It's really gross. So I did want to be legit about it. And so I got like higher quality products that I'm still really careful. I try really hard not to get it on my skin. I wear a mask. I do, you know, all the things. I'm trying really hard to be legit about it. Legit about it. I don't know why I said that funny. Anyway, so I did all the research and I started doing it. It took forever, but I'm like, it's fine. I'll get better with time. I'll get faster, which is kind of true. I have gotten faster. However, my retention has been so bad. When I was getting them done professionally, I would literally go 6 weeks between appointments, and there was not a chip to be seen. It was incredible. Doing it myself, I was getting like 2 weeks. And then I would peel them all off and I'd have to start completely over. And my nails were getting so thin. It was awful. And then they were breaking all the time. So I kept it up for like the first half of the year. And then the second half of the year, I couldn't do it anymore because I just couldn't. It would literally take me like 4 hours to do my nails. And they would only last like 2 to 3 weeks. And that payoff was just not enough for me. So I went back to the drawing board and I switched it up. I had been using the Cocoist products. I'm switching to the Luminary products, which is the one everybody talks about. If my retention is not better, I will try one more that I saw. It's like Claire. I forgot what it's called. I'm going to try that one. And if I still can't get at least 4 weeks of retention, I'm going to have to just bite the bullet and say no more painted nails for me for a while because it's not sustainable. Putting that much time, 4 hours into my nails every 2 weeks, absolutely not. I can't do it. Okay. Anyway, I will go back to my notes. That's usually what I like to do is just kind of go through like the things that have happened lately and express any rants that I have about them. I haven't ranted about Thanksgiving yet, which was actually kind of a crazy day. I'm not going to lie. Well, just like the morning was crazy. So Oakley got a fever. He's my 2-year-old. Now he's 2. He was 1 at the time. He just turned 2 in December. He got a fever on the day before Thanksgiving. And it was like the evening right before bed. And then he woke up like in the night with a fever. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, I knew he was not feeling good. And I was like, shoot, because we had plans to go to my cousin's house for Thanksgiving. And I'd made all this food for it, even the pretzel jello salad, which you know I hate making. But I finally did the hack, my own hack that I thought of, which is like reverse order pretzel jello salad. So instead of doing the cream layer, the pretzel layer, then the cream layer, then the jello on top, I did the jello layer, then the cream layer with the pretzels on top. 12 out of 10 recommend. Literally life-changing, so much easier. You can make the jello days. You can make it like a week in advance. And then the cream layer, you could also make that a week in advance. And then you just make the pretzel layer the day of and just put that on top. Oh my gosh, so much better. You don't have to deal with all the math and the timing and worrying about it getting soggy. Oh, it's literally life-changing. Okay. Anyway, I've ranted many times about the pretzel jello salad. So if you know, you know. He had a fever. And so I was like, well, shoot, what are we going to do? Because obviously I don't want to take him to this family event if he's like actually sick, but maybe it's an ear infection because that happens and that can cause fevers. And he was kind of like, you know, I kind of like yanked on his ear to see if it would instill a reaction. And it did. He was like, ow. So I thought, oh, maybe it's an ear infection. So I called the pediatrician's office to just see if by any chance there were any appointments in the morning. There were not. So I was like, okay, dang. Well, I decided to go to, I just called. Sorry. I was calling, talked to her. The lady was like, no appointments. You can bring him in tomorrow. She basically said the only way you could rule out ear infection or determine anything is by going to the ER. Not worth it. I was like, no, definitely not worth it. So we'll just have him stay home with Steven and the rest of us will go to Thanksgiving. Well, trigger warning. This is talking about health stuff with kids, which it was fine in the end. Everything is fine. I'll preface it with that. But I hung up with the nurse and no less than 30 seconds later, I'm sitting at the bar in the kitchen. No less than 30 seconds later, Oakley starts having a seizure on the bar stool. And it has like a back on it, thankfully. So he was just kind of like hunched over in the chair. And it was terrifying, as you can imagine. So I immediately call her back because I had her number and I was like, I just talked to you. My son is having a seizure. So she talked us through it. She said to have him lay on the couch. I think it was like on his left side, his right side. I don't know. Look it up. And just give him space. Don't try to restrain him or anything, but just make sure he's on his side and time it so you know how long it's happening. And then she basically said, like, call 911 and they will take him to the hospital. You don't want to take him to the hospital because if he has another seizure in the car seat, that could be dangerous. So we're like, oh my gosh, okay. So we do all the things that she says. We call 911. The paramedics come. We actually live very close to a fire station. So they came really fast, which was nice. He was done seizing by the time they got there, but he'd probably been seizing for over 2 minutes, would be my guess. From the time that we started timing it, but it had been going on for probably like 30 to 45 seconds before we started timing. And yeah, as you can imagine, it was absolutely terrifying. The paramedics come and they're like chill as chill can be. Like literally like, oh yeah, no problem. Happens all the time. Not a worry. And it was just like confusing because I wouldn't say that the nurse sounded frantic, but she definitely sounded like concerned and was very adamant that like we could not take him to the ER, like they needed to take him to the ER and all this stuff. And then the paramedics were just like very nonchalant about it. So then it was like, well, who is taking this, the appropriate level of serious and who, like how do we respond? Halfway through, we have 4, I think there were 5 paramedics that ended up coming because there was a fire truck and then an ambulance, maybe 6 total. Partway through this encounter, I realized I'm still wearing my forehead tape, which is fine. I mean, I know people see me in my forehead tape all the time. I was like, in my pajamas. This was like 9:30 a.m. on Thanksgiving. I had been working on the pretzel jello salad. Shocker. Anyway, I like tried to take my forehead tape off subtly. I don't know. Nobody said anything about it. I didn't want to make a joke because I was like, I don't want them to think that I'm not taking this situation seriously. It was just all around crazy. Ultimately, they said that he was fine and that we could take him to the ER, that they did not need to take him in the ambulance. So then it was like confusing. Oh, they took his temperature, let me rewind. So they said it's really common, which I'm like, really common? Like how common? Because I've had 5 children get past the age of 3 and this has never happened. They said it's really common in kids from like 1 to 5, I think is what they said, to have a seizure. It's febrile seizure, I think is what it's called, if their temperature gets high. But his temperature was 102. I don't even think it was like 101.9 or something like that. Like it was not super high. So that was weird to me. They checked everything, his oxygen was good. Everything else was good. So they were very unconcerned to the point where like, it almost seemed like they didn't feel like we needed to take him to the hospital at all. Or it was like they said, okay, yeah, you can take him to the hospital. But they were being so nonchalant about it. Then we were kind of like, well, but why? Like if you said he's fine and you've already taken all of his vitals, like what is the hospital going to do? But obviously we care about our child and his well-being and we were scared. So of course we took him to the hospital. They literally did nothing more than what the paramedics did. Well, they looked in his ear. They said, nope, not an ear infection. Must be something else. Then they took his heart rate, took his oxygen, took his temperature, and said we were good to go. Well, Steven and him went. I didn't even go. It was literally a less than 15-minute appointment. We got charged a nice, cool $560 for that 15-minute appointment. Woo! But yeah, it was really weird. Anyway, I'm just telling you this story because it was pretty freaky, and I have heard of a febrile seizure before, but I have obviously never experienced one. And so I'm just telling you this because maybe this would be helpful for you. I don't know. But everything's fine. He's not had any side effects. Nothing has happened. And that's what the paramedics said too. They're like, nothing long-term will happen. This is not anything to be worried about. It's totally fine. So take with that what you will. But it was a very, very, and not entertaining. That was a scary word to use. No, it was a very, very intense Thanksgiving morning. And just like, well, what is the word? Not intense. I mean that, yes, but also it was just, yeah, it was quite no, I had it and then it left again. quite the eventful, that's the word I was looking for, quite the eventful morning. We ended up, like I said, I went with the kids to Thanksgiving at my cousin's house, and then Steven and Oakley stayed home, and it was fine. It all worked out just fine in the end, but it was just a little crazy, and I never had the opportunity to tell you that story, so I'm telling you now. I also recorded that episode, my last episode that I aired last week, which actually was the week before now, because I didn't release an episode last week because I'm switching to Mondays now. That's why there wasn't an episode. I've already lost on my weekly podcast goal. Yeah, I recorded that back shortly after Thanksgiving, but then I hadn't edited it or just like aligned the video with the audio, which surprisingly takes longer than you would think because I am just silly about it. But then I realized like if I sat on it for another 10 days, then it would be in 2026 that I would release it instead of 2025. And in my last solo episode, I said that I would release, I think I said 45 episodes this year. So I thought, well, if I wait, then I'll have 45. I'll be one step closer to the goal of 45 episodes. So that's why I didn't release it. I also have another one that has been pre-recorded that I will eventually release as well. Okay, other things. I know that I talked about this a while ago. I at least briefly touched on it. This book that I'm like kind of obsessed with right now. It's called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. You've probably heard of Gretchen Rubin. She does like the happiness stuff. She has a podcast called The Happiness Project, I think. And she wrote this other book called The Four Tendencies. And it's so funny because if you know what the book is about and if you understand it, then the way that it played out in my life is so hilarious because I read it, I want to say like springtime of last year. And I thought it was really interesting. And I told Steven about it and he was like, yeah, like, oh yeah, that's interesting. And kind of like moved on. And then I basically did nothing. Like I thought it was interesting and she suggests a lot of these changes that you can make, whatever. Didn't really follow through with any of them. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, Steven decided to listen to the book on Libby. And he is mind blown. He thinks it's so crazy. He's like talking about it all the time. He's asking me all these questions. We're chatting about it. We listened to a chapter together. You know, we're talking about it. And now that Steven has read the book, I am now making changes based on the book. So now let me give you what the book is about and it will all make sense. So the premise of the book is that there are 4 types of people: upholders. And let me rewind too. It's specific to how people meet expectations both internally and externally. Okay. There's 4 types. The first type is upholders. They meet internal expectations and external expectations. Okay, easy. The next type is obligers. They do not meet internal expectations, but they do meet external expectations. The next group is the questioners. They are people who only meet internal expectations. However, if people outside of them have expectations for them and they buy in, if that person that has the expectation does a good job of like explaining the expectation and why and like why it matters, and the questioner has bought in to that and it becomes a personal internal expectation, then they will meet it. And then the 4th category is rebels, who resist both internal and external expectations. So now telling you the story of me and reading the book and thinking like, oh, that's cool, I want to do all that stuff, and then doing none of it. But then Steven reads the book and starts implementing things, and then, oh, look, I start implementing things too. That is literally the perfect illustration of the type that I am, which is an obliger, because I would love to do things all day. And I like tell myself like, oh yeah, I want to do that thing. And oh, I'm going to do that. But it feels impossible for me to do until there's an external expectation, which is why over the summer last year, when I had that goal of hitting 10,000 followers, I kept with it because I was telling other people and other people were expecting me to do this. I've wanted to grow Instagram for literally years, right? But it wasn't until I had other people expecting me to act or do things in a certain way that I actually met the goal, which is again why I'm telling you that I'm going to do 45 podcasts this year and why I'm adding it to my intro that this is a weekly podcast, because these are things that make my internal expectations become external expectations so that I will actually do them. And the other crazy thing that I did because Steven, who he's a questioner, by the way, is I hired a virtual assistant. Shout out Audrey. I don't know if she's listening, but if she is, she's already changed my life, because the point with the Four Tendencies isn't that like you want to try to change. Because when you hear them all outright, you think like, well, everybody wants to be an upholder. Like upholders are the quote unquote best one because they both meet internal and external expectations. And so that seems like the ideal. But what she talks about in the book is like, it's not that you're trying to achieve something else. It's just like, you are the way that you are. It's one of these 4 ways. So set up your life accordingly so that you can still get where you want to go, knowing that you are who you are. Does that make sense? And I'm all for the growth mindset. Like I do think that growth mindset is really good and has lots of benefits, but like it's helpful to, in this situation, to not feel like, oh, I need to improve, because she talks about how each of the categories has drawbacks too. So it's not like one is better or worse. It's not like, oh, I need to improve myself to be this other thing. It's just like, no, they're all neutral. There are good things that come with them. There are cons that come with them. And so just act appropriately. So the thing with having Audrey, my personal assistant, that sounds like so much different than virtual assistant for some reason. My virtual assistant is that I'm like telling her, like I'm making her job dependent on me first of all, making money because I've been wanting to make money for a long time with this business platform, whatever. But again, where it's like, I just want it for my own internal expectation. I haven't really gotten very far. But now that I'm like, oh no, I need to make this money so that I can pay her, like, whoa, stakes are very different. But also I'm making her tasks contingent or dependent on me getting my tasks done. So now I'm actually completing tasks. She started for me the week of Christmas, I think. So I think this is her 4th week now. Whoa, that's crazy. Wow. So it's been about a month now and it's already changed my life. I'm like, this is so crazy. I've gotten so much more done in the last few weeks, business-wise. It's crazy. I'm like, wow, I could have been doing so much more this whole time. Speaking of Christmas though, we had a great Christmas. We just were home with our little family. That's kind of what we do. We don't have immediate family here in Utah. So we are typically just hanging out and we like it. We appreciate it. I do think it would be really hard to travel for Christmas morning and have to like have everything packed and wrapped and ready to go. Like, whew, that would be tricky for me to do since I do tend to push things off to the last minute. But I don't know. I obviously it can be fun to like be with other people too, but we're used to being our little immediate family and it's great. Anyway, we got the next playground. It's been a hit so far. We're still loving it. The kids played it last night for like an hour and a half. And Steve and I play it too. Like it's really fun. The one that we like the best of all the games, so my in-laws got it for us. Super generous of them. They also got it with the yearly subscription, which is I think $80 a year, which is annoying for sure. Another subscription, of course. But I get it because they want to be able to continue making money. And it's like other games, you have a Switch. One of the games that Elliot wanted for Christmas was like $60, which is crazy. I didn't get it for him because that was more than I wanted to spend on a game. But I understand that, like, you know, it's not unreasonable. That's $10 games throughout the year, right? So it makes sense to me. Anyway, the one we like the best is called Starry. It's kind of like a Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution type game, but you play with your body. So you're like moving your arms and your legs and like stepping back and forth and stuff. It's actually really fun. And it's really impressive how well it keeps up with you in real time. So we've really been enjoying that. I am kind of curious to see if the hype stays. Obviously, it's still new. So far, it's been fun. And anytime the kids have friends over, that is really fun too. And I'm usually very opposed to doing screens with friends over, but that is one that I don't mind that they do because they're like up and running around and jumping and dancing, and so it doesn't bother me as much. But the other thing that I thought was really fun was that for Christmas, Lydia wanted to have her room redecorated, which was totally fair because it hasn't. We decorated it in 2020 when her and Elliot shared a room, and she was 4 and he was 3. So it's been a minute since it's been updated. And so I didn't want to have to deal with doing it all before Christmas, mostly because there was other stuff I was dealing with, but also just the logistics of like finding somewhere else for her to go and then making sure the door got closed so she didn't get the surprise spoiled or whatever. That felt like a lot more than I wanted to deal with. So instead, I just made a little mood board for the room and I started accumulating stuff from the mood board. So she unwrapped that on Christmas morning, and then I went to work on like actually putting it together. So the main thing that I did was I painted the wall in her room purple, which was kind of a joke because they didn't have the color that I wanted at Home Depot. So I got another color and I mixed it with another color that I had, and I did the first 2 coats, but then I needed to like do touch-ups and I was out. The color that I made was, I didn't have one of the colors anymore. It was a whole thing. So then I had to make a new color. It took so long, like a stupid amount of time. But ultimately, I like the color that we ended up with in the end. She loves it. I had some big posters printed. I feel like I need a few more. The wall is really big in that room, so it kind of makes everything look small. It's not done. The room is not done, but it is livable. She got new sheets and a new comforter, like duvet and duvet cover. She got a new desk. She got posters on the wall. So there's a few other things I want to get, like some maybe like twinkle lights with some pictures and a beanbag and a bulletin board, just things like that. But so far, so good. And that was actually a big reason why too, when I was decorating for her room, I kept going back to people who I follow on Instagram, but I would go to their blogs to be able to find resources or things, that inspiration. And it occurred to me how much I miss blogs in the search function, because Instagram's search function is not good. It's actually so bad. So bad. It's gotten a little bit better, I feel like, but it's still really, really bad. And so I was like, I think I want to have a blog for people if I talked about something and they want to be able to reference it or look at that picture again, I want them to be able to find it. So that is part of what I have Audrey doing, and I've been working on that too, is kind of like putting a little blog together with posts and stuff. And I don't know, it's super fun right now because we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to figure out how to make this all work. And I'm still in the phase where it's really exciting, but I'm sure it will maybe at some point not be as exciting. We shall see if I can keep up the momentum. Also, I meant to mention this at the beginning, but I am getting a new phone today. That was my big Christmas present from Steven. Well, kind of, because the Christmas present was him figuring out how to order the new phone, because I was going to get the new phone either way. But figuring out what I needed to do on the Verizon account and like what it was going to cost and how it was going to work and how the pay structure would be set up and all that stuff was so overwhelming and awful to me that I said to Steven, I'm like, for Christmas, that's what you could do. And he said, great. We don't actually give each other Christmas presents anymore. This is going to be a hot take. I would rather just buy what I want, you know? And I used to get Steven Christmas presents, and he is this comes back to the fact that he's a questioner. Although I feel like he's a questioner in more places than just expectations. I think he's just kind of like a questioner in general. Like he always likes to know all the information and like make the best decision for things, because there were too many years where I got him something and then he ended up returning it or not ever using it, that I was like, I don't like shopping for you anymore. This isn't fun for me. So you can just buy your own presents and I will buy my own presents. And we both love it that way. Truly. I saw something that someone was like, they posted how mad they were. Like, I just saw a video of a girl saying her husband got her nothing for Christmas, and like, I'm livid. And I was like, it's fine. Like it's good. I'll randomly get something that I kind of want, but I only kind of want it, but it's a bigger ticket item. And so I don't want to just like buy it for no reason. And so I'll pose it as like a Christmas present. For example, last year, I thought that it might be fun to have a Blackstone grill. It's like, I'm a big fan of Blackstone. As a matter of fact, I would love to work with Blackstone this year. I've emailed them. They have not responded, but hopefully at some point they will. It's a grill. So you keep it outside. It's big, but instead of it having the grate with like an open flame underneath, it's gas, and it's a stainless steel top. So you can do like vegetables on it and it won't fall through. Anyway, big fan, but I had been hearing about them and I thought that it would be really cool. And I saw that they were on rebate at Costco last year, just before Christmas. And we had like our little cashback for our Costco credit card thing. And so I got it and I gave it to Steven for Christmas, even though he'd literally never heard of a Blackstone before. He had no idea what it was. But I was like, it will be so great. And he was skeptical, but it's been awesome. We've loved it. I feel like I use it just as much as him. You know, it's very much a family gift. So it was kind of a Christmas present for him, but it was more like, I just bought this for our family and I'm going to pretend like it's a Christmas present for you. Anyway, highly recommend. If you don't like shopping for gifts for your spouse, you don't have to. Just say, you can buy your own presents. I know that like some people though, gift giving is both. It's one of the 5 love languages, right? Is it giving the gift or is it receiving the gift? I can't remember. Gifts. Is that the thing? I don't know. I know that is a big value for a lot of people, but it's definitely not for me or Steven. So that works out because we're both on the same page. Anyway, though, back to my phone. I'm really worried that they're going to come and try to deliver it while I'm down here podcasting, and I'm not going to hear them knocking on the door. And then they're going to text me and be like, we tried to deliver this and you weren't home. And I'm going to be crying. So I did leave a note on the door that said, I am here. Please call me. And I put my phone number. So I really hope that they do that in case they order. Okay, how crazy is this though? Because I got a text saying that my phone was out for delivery on Saturday, I think, which was weird. Because what it really meant was just that it had been shipped. Let's see, where was that? Friday. It was Friday morning. It says your phone is out. It says your order is out for delivery. We'll message you when it's delivered. And that's from Verizon. It was a text from Verizon, but it's like trusted Verizon partner, verified account, website. Like it's legit, okay? But within minutes of getting that text that said it's out for delivery, I got another text that said we tried to deliver and you weren't home. And I was like, what the heck? So I went downstairs to see what this was like, 7 in the morning. Like, oh my gosh, they just tried to deliver my phone and we weren't here. And Steven was like, what? That's crazy. I was literally here in the kitchen the whole time. Like nobody knocked on the door. Well, then I looked again and the second text was from like a really long email address, something at gogglygook.com or whatever. And I realized that it was fake, that the initial text from Verizon was legit, but the follow-up text saying that I had missed the delivery was spam. And that happened again later that day. I got a text from Verizon saying your delivery is on its way. Okay, that's another thing that's weird too, because Verizon didn't actually, it was not out for delivery. It had just shipped. And when you clicked on the tracking, it said it would be here by Monday. So I don't know why in their text it says it's out for delivery when it's not. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, I think that there's some other spam company that has access to Verizon sending out, like the phone numbers that Verizon is sending the delivery updates to, that is then scamming people. And that is super sketch, because that means that Verizon they have been compromised. So in case you get any sketchy texts, be aware. Anyway, I hope that they will call me like I said to on my note if they come to deliver my phone, because I will be so sad if I miss it. And then I don't know, maybe they'd come back tomorrow or something. The new phone that I'm getting is a terabyte of storage, and I cannot tell you how thrilled I am as someone with chronic storage phone issues. Oh, it's going to be life-changing. I truly believe. I've just remembered, though, there was something else I wanted to say on the topic of the Four Tendencies, and it relates to like maybe some of the struggles I've had with motherhood, because back to the Four Tendencies thing, right? The book, the type that I am, the obliger type, is really good at meeting external expectations, but not internal. And obligers are the largest group. She said there are more obligers than anybody else. And so because of that, there's obviously a lot more range in what that could look like for different people. So I think for me, as I've been, thinking about this, processing this, I think the way that this works for me is I am only obliged to meet an external expectation when I feel like someone else is depending on me. So if someone else says like, okay, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, so if somebody says like, hey, are you going to the gym tomorrow? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not sure. I might. Like, okay, cool. I am under no pressure or like expectation for me to meet that person at the gym. But if somebody texted me and they're like, hey, I'm going to the gym on Tuesday and I'm really nervous, I need you there. Will you be there? I will be there. I am very dependable. When there's an expectation, but again, if it's like it was a group text and they needed somebody there and someone else is like, yeah, I'll be there, then I'm like, okay, cool, not me. I'm a lazy obliger, I think is probably how I would phrase it, where it's like, if I can find a way to not do something, I'm not going to do it. But relationships are important to me. So if somebody else wants me to do it and it's important to them, or if it's like going to impact them negatively if I don't do it, then I will do it. Does that make sense? So I've been thinking about how this relates to being a stay-at-home mom, because I think the thing that's really hard, especially with like the religious context and the societal context of this blanket term of motherhood encompassing everything from household management to children management to, the mental load, everything, is that it's like the blanket expectation from this nameless, faceless entity is that moms do it all the time, right? Like they're always doing the things, they're always working, they're always blah, blah, blah. And I'm not that way. And I think like because my expectations, how do I phrase this? Like the specific expectations, very little of what I do during the day is like gonna mess somebody else up. Like the dishes, for example. There is no part of like me doing or not doing the dishes that's going to like make somebody else be able to do or not do something that they couldn't have done. What? Wow, that was too many double negatives. How do I explain this? Basically, I did not have external expectations in being a stay-at-home mom because Steven is like very chill. And I think if I had had a husband who had like really high expectations for things, I think that would have been a really quick way for me to resent said husband. So it's a good thing that Steven doesn't have like high expectations for this stuff. Because of that, I've just like floated and like, I've never really had like some people are like, oh yeah, I just have a meal plan. And it's like Mondays is pasta and Tuesdays is tacos and Wednesdays is I was going to say lasagna, but oof, I can't imagine having lasagna every Wednesday. That'd be awful. Let's see. Wednesdays is casseroles and Thursdays is whatever it is. And like, there are people that just like have that set schedule and they just stick to it every week. And it's so great. And I have tried that so many times, but because it's like just me, there's no external thing that's holding me to that schedule. It never works. I never follow through with it. So what I have been doing lately, which has been working, is I have my kids pick their dinner that they want for the week. And then I make the things that they said. I'm concerned because it sounds like there is somebody upstairs in my house. And I thought that it was Steven. But I just remember that Steven's car broke down. So I took him to work this morning. So it cannot be him. He did not have a way to get home. So I'm just hoping that it's not a person up there because that's really sketchy. Back to the topic at hand. I didn't have, I lost it because I got really freaked out by the sounds happening, but apparently it was my heater that just kicked on. I wonder if stay-at-home moms or dads who are obligers struggle with it more than upholders, for sure, because they went from a job, and being employed outside of the home or going to school or whatever it was, where they had this external structure that was set up for them already, into essentially being their own boss, right? Like, as a stay-at-home parent, you're your own boss. And so you have these ideas of how you want to do things and what it's going to look like, and you want to do the schedule. But because there's no external force keeping things in place, it's nearly impossible. And then you feel like you're just bad at it. You're just like, well, I'm just bad at being a mom, right? Because other people are really good at this. So I think it's really interesting. And I think that there is something there. I'm still putting it into words clearly because I'm stumbling over my words so bad. But I think that there is something there. And I think that it kind of maybe stems, or that's like a lot of where my issues with gender stereotypes in general stem from. Because I think I saw this idea of like what moms do, or like how moms react, or what moms look like on social media. And I don't identify with 90% of it, but I see a lot. I feel like Steven is actually better at a lot of those things than me. And so I think that might be a lot of the reason why I get so resistant to gender stereotypes, because they just don't resonate with me. And so therefore I'm just like skeptical of them. This was a weird transition. I'm basically trying to say, so like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'll just stop because I actually don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, I'm trying to say, read the book for the Four Tendencies. I think that's the takeaway. Go read that book. Come back. Tell me what you are. Tell me if you struggle also with internal systems, because, okay, well, and this is the thing too. I feel like right now, the big thing is just like blame it all on ADHD. Not to say that ADHD isn't legit, and like, there are lots of struggles that come with that. But I wonder if some of the time, and maybe even for me specifically, I'll say the issue might not be that I have ADHD, which maybe I do, but it could just be the fact that I'm really bad at meeting internal expectations. So I just like don't get stuff done that other people care about. But I'm really good at like knowing the things that I care about that other people are also expecting. Like there are people that expect me to show up on social media. So it's like, I am going to show up on social media. I'm not going to do my dishes unless someone's coming over, in which case I will do my dishes. But I will show up on social media because there are people. I don't know. But then it's like, okay, but those people aren't going to like, their life is not going to be impacted negatively if I just stop showing up. Okay, I clearly am just talking in circles. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but that is one of my favorite rants, talking about how gender stereotypes are just not helpful and I don't like them. So you'll probably hear more about that already, or I mean on other episodes if you haven't already. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up there because I need to get this up today. I got to get this done fast. When I dropped my kids off at my friend Whitney's house, I was like, I got to go record a podcast episode. And she said, can you do it all same day? And I was like, yes, I can. So this is me proving that I can because I'm going to get this up. I'm excited for 2026. Be ready for some unhinged rants. I think the other thing too, maybe, is that like some of the things that I'm good to talk about like surface level stuff, but I don't talk about vulnerable stuff on the podcast. And it's tricky because like, I don't want to talk about vulnerable stuff just for the sake of being vulnerable. Like that's weird. But I don't want to shy away from topics because they make me feel vulnerable because I'm scared of them, if that makes sense. I want to be able to connect with people on a deeper level. And I think that comes with being willing to be vulnerable. So we'll see how I can figure out ways to do that feel aligned, I guess you could say, with me and the purpose of the podcast. But I also want to figure out how to get more like listener input or listener stories or something. Like I want it to be a little bit more interactive than me just like talking to myself for an hour or bringing on a co-host. I am hoping to bring on co-hosts, and you'll notice that I'm using the word co-host and not guest because I don't want it to be an interview style where I just bring people on and I ask them questions, because I am not an interviewer. I just don't see that being something that I enjoy. But what I do love is chatting with people. So I want to bring people on kind of with like a common topic, theme, whatever, that we can talk about together and discuss and rant about, and then just chat about the things. So I'm excited. I'm hopeful that this is going to be the year of the podcast. I'm not hopeful. I'm manifesting that this is going to be the year of the podcast. I'm going to give out at least 45 episodes. They are going to be weekly. I'll probably take like maybe a little break at some point in the year just to not totally burn myself out. But 45 episodes, guys. And we're one down. This is number 2 on the year. Thank you so much for being here. I am truly honored that you would spend this time with me. I hope that you'll come again, and I'll see you next week. End rant.